Hey everybody, welcome to Why I Love Cinema. Today we are going to be talking 2007's Grindhouse from directors Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino. Um, if you've never been to a Grindhouse, really, how do you describe a movie like Grindhouse? How do you really, let's just get it simply enough. What's it rated? Rated R for strong, graphic, bloody violence and gore, pervasive language, some sexuality, nudity, and drug use. That about sums it up. Welcome back to Why I Love Cinema. Today, again, we are talking Grindhouse. I'm your host, Kyle Goethe. You can find all my films on goatfilmreviews.com. You can check out all my many different reviews. And this is the show where basically I give you a weekly recommendation of a film that I think is underseen, underappreciated, didn't get the love it deserved. Some of the criteria, it's got if it's a box office failure, if it's got a low Rotten Tomatoes score, if it has Razzie nominations, those are the films right now that I think are worthy of revisiting right now in the world that we're in. And a lot of us have more time at home right now. This is the perfect time to be checking out those underseen movies, and I'm giving you a new one every single week. And again, today we are talking Grindhouse. A little bit of background on this film and some of the reason why I think it is probably one of the most deserving films to talk about on this show. In 2007, this film was released, and I think it was one of those movies that just didn't really capture people's attention. Because people didn't really understand what this movie was. I grew up in northern Minnesota. We didn't have Grindhouse theaters. We didn't have those B-movie double features that many people did. I mean, I really, in my youth, I didn't have any experiences of a double feature. I saw one double feature in my hometown, and it was Dawn of the Dead from 2004 and Trading Lives. Was that it? Taking Lives. Dawn of the Dead 2004 and Taking Lives. Two films that really have nothing in common. They don't even really have the same kind of genre. One's a horror and one's a thriller. But they don't really embrace anything of like a double feature world. This was a movie that was released that people did not understand. The studio didn't know how to market it. The theater didn't know how to explain it. And part of that comes when you make a one-of-a-kind experience. Is it may just not reach the people it needs to. And the shame of it is, this is the movie that really deserved to be seen in theaters. The closest theater that was showing Grindhouse when it came out in 2007 was a 6-hour drive for me, and I couldn't get a crew to go with me to drive 6 hours to see this 3-hour movie and then drive 6 hours back. And I've tried my best, and it just didn't work for me. Then the film came out on home video, and I was so excited because I get to finally experience this one I was looking so forward to. And when it came out on home video, it came out as two separate movies. The film was chopped in the middle. They gave us unrated extended cuts, which really only one scene from the extended cuts is worth putting in the movie, but they also chopped out a lot of what gave the film its heart and soul in an effort to make back some of the loss, because they lost a lot of money on this movie. It's one of those things where, they didn't know how to reach people with this movie. And in fact, it took 3 years. I was part of a write-in campaign kind of a thing, trying to get people to release the theatrical cut of Grindhouse. It's one of the few films in history where I've pushed for the theatrical cut after getting director's versions, because I didn't think that the two versions released on home video gave the biggest... They didn't respect the way the film was. And it wasn't until 2010 that this version of the movie Grindhouse, the 2-disc set, came out. This is the way to watch the movie. If you can't find it digitally, go find yourself a copy of this one right here. Again, we got Planet Terror, we got Death Proof, we got Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez are back, and this time they're back to back. This is an excellent version of this film, and it's totally worth your time if you're a film snob or if you're a B-horror movie nut. Check that out. Here's how the show works. We give you the 5 reasons why I love this movie and why I think you should visit it for the first time, or if you saw it already, I think you should revisit it. And then afterwards, we'll give you some fun trivia, because I'm a trivia hound and I need to take 60 seconds out of my life to give you all the trivia knowledge you deserve. So, all that stuff out of the way, let's get into the 5 reasons why I love Grindhouse. Reason number 1, the structure. Simply enough, let's break down what the structure is. If you don't know what a Grindhouse is, if you've never been to one, here's how it plays out. It's basically 2 B-movie double-featured on one playbill. Basically, you'd pay a price to go see two films back to back. In between, there would be cut-in trailers for other films that would be coming to this said Grindhouse, commercials for like local businesses, basically just trying to like squeeze all the money that they can out of these films. Some of them have made a first run. Some are being re-released. Some films, like this is all they were intended to be a part of, was released in this way so that you could go see them. They basically, theaters I would take them and just try to get as much as they could out of these movies. Most of the time they featured some heavy violence, sexual content, language. A lot of times they were like horror films or like gritty action thrillers. They were usually on the darker side of things, but the theaters were very much embracing the enjoyment factor of these films over any like critical response, really. So it's one of those things, the films were not asking to be Oscar winners, but they kind of had like a different life in this Grindhouse setting. This film is modeled that way in that you have two films jammed together. It's Planet Terror, directed by Robert Rodriguez, and Death Proof, directed by Quentin Tarantino. Each film runs about 80 to 85 minutes, and they're jammed together in this 3-hour and 11-minute runtime with added trailers. Now, the fun thing about this is that the trailers in the film are not for real movies. The irony, of course, being that one of the trailers for Machete became its own movie later on, with Robert Rodriguez directing that, as well as the sequel, Machete Kills, and hopefully one day the third film, Machete Kills Again in Space. But what we break down to is like these, trailers were for other B horror movies that, you could check out next week at your local Grindhouse kind of stuff. They were coming soon, the attractions. And so the great thing is they actually got in other filmmakers. So, of course, Rodriguez himself did a Machete trailer, but then we had Edgar Wright's Don't, which was really cool. We got to see Rob Zombie's Werewolf Women of the SS, and of course I'm blanking on the other. Oh, Eli Roth directed a trailer for Thanksgiving, which was a playoff of Halloween. So the structure of it is really cool, and that is it is a unique, one-of-a-kind experience of you being able to recreate the feeling of going into a Grindhouse. Now, this is something Rodriguez and Tarantino both grew up, being able to see these kinds of films in this format. And again, that's one of the reasons why I don't think the film did well, is that people just didn't understand what this was. I heard stories of people leaving the theater after Rodriguez's half of the film was done. The film was only half finished, so they left after Rodriguez's film not realizing that there was a whole nother movie to be watched in this experience. So that's kind of the tough part about it, is people just didn't get the structure. But it is a wholly unique experience. And part of that, when you create something that's one of a kind, is that people don't always understand it. And this is a film that almost begs for some research value to go into it. You need to understand what the movie is before you see it. And that's why critics, of course, gave it a solid rating. And anyone who saw the film in its fulldom understood what the movie was by the end of it. But I think people that, if you don't know what you're going in to see, you may not enjoy it the same way. So it's very important to see the film in its intended version. And I think the structure of that creates this experience. And in fact, it embraced me. There was a lot of years after this film came out when I would do like a couple of Grindhouse nights in college and beyond, where I'd pair two horror movies together with some trailers and stuff like that, and actually curate in October a couple times a week. It basically created like a movie night kind of a feeling. And this film is best seen in theaters, but at the same time, if you're going to see it at home, watch it with the intended structure, because the extended films, they lose all those extra trailers. They lose a lot of what makes the Grindhouse experience feel real, and they're just 2B movies. They're both fine in that way, but this is the best way to see them. So that's reason number one, the amazing structure of Grindhouse. Reason number two, this film has like top tier casting. The incredible cast of Grindhouse, and some of these people appear in the film for a shot, a line of dialogue. Like the amount of incredible performers that they got to work in this film, and that comes when you have a Tarantino and a Rodriguez working on it. But then you also get a Rob Zombie making his short film, and you get Edgar Wright making his little trailer, and you get Eli Roth making his trailer, and so they got their own kind of like buddies to get together. It's almost like Adam Sandler makes all of his garbage movies, but he makes them with his friends, so he has fun making them. That's a lot of what this was, is people kind of, getting their buddies to work with them on a film. I'm just going to run through this cast list, and this isn't even everybody in the film, but these are the names that I think are people that you would actually recognize, and just the cast list is staggering. So we got Kurt Russell, we got Zoe Bell, Rosario Dawson, Rose McGowan, Jordan Ladd, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Quentin Tarantino himself, Eli Roth, Michael Parks, Marley Shelton, Freddie Rodriguez, Josh Brolin, Jeff Fahey, Michael Biehn, Bruce Willis, Naveen Andrews, Fergie, Nicky Cat, Tom Savini, Danny Trejo, Cheech Marin, Udo Kier, Sherry Moon Zombie, Sybil Danning, Bill Moseley, Will Arnett, Nicolas Cage, Nick Frost, Jay Hernandez, Jason Isaacs, Simon Pegg, Peter Serafinowicz, and Ray Spall. And there are tons of other people in this movie. This is a stacked cast, and even the people that only appear in it for a small sequence, something really simple, give it their all, and they really help contribute to making this film the stylistic treat that it is. It's a shame that people didn't get to see more of this kind of stuff, because again, like, you know, Nicolas Cage shows up in a trailer, a fake trailer for a movie where he gets maybe 2 lines of dialogue. He's on screen for 10 seconds in the movie, but he owns that 10 seconds. You get Kurt Russell, who, you know, the villain of one of the whole films, just powerfully like taking on stuntman Mike, you know, this villain's character. Rose McGowan appears in both films as 2 separate characters. You even get some crossover between the 2 movies, with Michael Parks and Marley Shelton appearing as father-daughter in the 2 separate movies, and crossing over, which I think is really fun too. The incredible cast of this film is something that can't be overlooked. Definitely reason number 2. You have the B-movie sensibilities with an A-movie cast. That's reason number 2. Reason number 3, I like that the 2 films take completely different paths. Each of these filmmakers, Rodriguez and Tarantino, put their own unique spin on these movies, and that's one of the reasons why they're so enjoyable to watch. Rodriguez loves that, you know, almost like Splatfest kind of gore. Like his zombie movie Planet Terror is very much a pussy, bloody, gory mess of things. There's viscous fluids flying around the screen, you know, for the entirety of the movie, and I think he embraces that. So his film is straight up horror. Then you get Death Proof, which is Tarantino's half, which takes more of a thriller vibe to it. I mean, it's definitely, again, like that B-movie sensibility where it's a thriller who kills people with a death-proof vehicle. It's definitely got horror elements, but it kind of takes more of that like action thriller vibe to it, whereas Planet Terror takes more of the horror thriller vibe to it, the apocalyptic film. Each filmmaker takes completely different paths, and the 2 films, though being smashed together, being part of the structure, each feel like separate movies. Like if you were able to watch them like I did, like first, which is watching the 2 extended versions of the films without the trailers, they each do function on their own as pretty interesting little movies, and they do have different looks to them. They you know, they do feel like 2 separate movies jammed together in a double feature. That's what we're getting. But then each of the trailers too kind of get that as well. Like, you know, your Thanksgiving trailer feels like an Eli Roth movie. Even though it's kind of, you know, making fun of Halloween. Your Edgar Wright trailer embraces some of the British horror trailers that came out around the 70s, you know. And then you also get Rob Zombie's Werewolf Into the SS, which is really a Rob Zombie movie through and through. It pulsates with Rob Zombie's style and attitude. So I like that the 2 films take completely different paths. And that kind of leads in, I guess, to reason number 4. So reason number 3, the 2 films taking different paths of how they're going to, you know, display their Grindhouse love. Reason number 4, the Grindhouse style itself. The way that the films were aged, that they added scratches, they added dirt, they added dust to the films. They simulated the feel of a real Grindhouse movie. You know, the film wasn't respected in a lot of ways. You'd get bubbles, pulsing up. The film stock itself was worn down. It was deteriorated. You know, from multiple playings, from playing these things until like the film tears. There's even a credit at the end of Grindhouse for the film damage compositor, the person who basically created film damage in the movie. And you know, part of each taking their different path. Planet Terror has a lot more heated up kind of a film stock, where the film stock is bubbling up and kind of like losing itself. You know, they each have missing reels, which I think is fantastic, because you kind of ignore some of the plot in favor of the style. But then, you know, Planet Terror, it does that with, you know, like the bubbling up and kind of the heat of the film. Death Proof kind of takes more of a scratch, more of a resistant kind of thing, where like, but then that film also tends to mess with the editing. there's a sequence where someone like sits down like 3 times and it kind of like plays back and forth again. And that's kind of, again, more Tarantino's version of it. So they each kind of created these films separately using a Grindhouse style and smashed them together. The way they were just aged right and aged completely differently. They do feel like different movies, even though they're embracing the same style. So that's number 4. Reason why I love Grindhouse, the Grindhouse style itself. And the reason number 5 is the heartbreaking reason. It's one I bring up a lot, actually, with films that just didn't get what they deserved. And that was the franchise potential. Yes, I know that we got a spin-off with Machete Kills. There was kind of a spin-off version of things with a fake trailer that was included in the Canadian release of the film, Hobo with a Shotgun, that became its own movie later on. But that's not even neither here nor there. I was really hoping that Grindhouse would begin a low-budget, almost a yearly event. Grindhouse films that would be 2 different directors, and you may be curated by this group that had worked on this one, picking 2 films and putting them out with fake trailers, and every year we get to go back and see 2. They're like, I would have loved to have seen a dual feature sequel with Werewolf Under the SS and Thanksgiving, put them back to back like that, and then have more trailers, and almost you could have fun with it where like it could have become a social media thing where people after seeing the film could vote for their favorite fake trailers. What movie would they like to see instead, for the next year? And then, different filmmakers would kind of get a chance to do something cool. This film really deserved an audience who understood it. It just didn't have that. But I think the franchise potential of Grindhouse is one of those things that, again, I created my own Grindhouse night after seeing the film, and I'd have people over and we'd watch 2 films back to back with snacks and yelling at the screen and stuff like that. And it was always B movies because I'm a big B movie fan. I love horror movies that aren't necessarily looking for your love. It's only if you love them. And I think the franchise potential for being able to do this on a yearly basis or even every couple years and pick those kinds of films that you want to tell that maybe you didn't get the chance to, so you get a minimal budget and you just get to have some fun with it. I think the franchise potential would have been amazing. So there you go right there, my 5 reasons for loving Grindhouse, and I got a whole lot more, but we're going to stick it to 5 right now. The structure, the incredible cast of the film, the 2 films taking completely different paths on how they accomplish their goals, the Grindhouse style, and the franchise potential. This is a movie that deserved to be seen. But there you go, I gave you my reasons. Now I want to know from you, why haven't you seen it yet? So we'll get to that in a second, but first, 60 seconds of trivia, because I just got to feed my trivia hogness. Let's get started into it in 3, 2, 1, go. So Nicolas Cage was actually not paid to appear in the fake trailer for Werewolf in the SS. He did it as a favor for his buddy, Rob Zombie. As I said before, the Canadian release of the film also featured a trailer for Hobo with a Shotgun, a fake trailer created by a South by Southwest Grindhouse-style contest that actually became a real movie later on. Rose McGowan was a germaphobe and had her stripper pole sanitized frequently throughout shooting. Michael Parks' character appears in the film. He also appeared in From Dusk Till Dawn and Kill Bill, which leads you to wonder, how many times is this guy going to die? Kurt Russell's tank top from Big Trouble in Little China is actually hanging on the wall in the Texas Chili Parlor, where stuntman Mike is sitting eating his nachos. The score used in the Thanksgiving trailer is actually from the movie Creepshow. Stuntman Mike claims that he worked on the show The Virginian, a show that Kurt Russell actually appeared in twice. Robert Rodriguez's son appears in the film as Tony, the son of Josh Brolin's character. Can you imagine putting your son in a movie like this? Not only that, but putting your son in the movie where he plays the role that he plays. Once you've seen the movie, you understand it. It's just a weird thing to choose, but I'm okay with it. All right, guys, so there you go. Those are my 60 seconds of trivia on the film and my 5 reasons for loving Grindhouse. Now I want to know from you, have you seen Grindhouse? Do you think I'm crazy? Do you think this movie doesn't deserve to be watched? Let me know in the comments section below, but if you haven't had a chance to, I highly recommend checking this movie out and then give me your thoughts on it afterwards as well. Come back here because I want to keep that conversation going with you. Have you guys checked out the Patreon yet? We got a Patreon, patreon.com/KyleNickOnFilm. There's a link down in the description right there. Click that and check out some of the tiers we have. We have tiers as low as $1 a month, and that way you can help support the independent content creators that you're watching right now. Check us out online. If you can't contribute with a Patreon monetarily, hey, help us get the video out there more. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe. Comment below. Give us your thoughts on the movie Grindhouse. Consider sharing the video on your social media. You sharing cat videos all day. Share a guy talking about horror movies. That's what I want from you guys. So thank you guys for joining me so much. I really do appreciate it. And again, next week we got new episodes of Kyle and Nick on Film. We're coming back for the rest of season 2 with some new content for you. And I'm really digging some of the movie choices we've been selecting. So thank you guys for joining me again. My name is Kyle Goethe. You can find all my film reviews on goldfilmreviews.com. And you can check me out at Almighty Goatman on social media. And hey, follow KN on Film on Twitter for more episodes of Kyle and Nick on Film. Thank you guys so much for joining me. And until next time, we'll see you later.